In this lesson we'll be working rows of half treble stitches. This is called a half double crochet in US terms, and it's the equivalent in height to 2 chains. Let's begin by looking at a stitch diagram for working rows of 8 half trebles. We'll start with a foundation row of 8 chains. Half treble stitches are the height of 2 chains, so row 1 will begin with 2 chains, and these don't actually count as a stitch, they simply get us to the height of the row. A half treble is worked into each of the 8 chains in the foundation row. Row 2 begins with 2 chains, and a half treble is worked into each of the 8 half trebles in row 1. Row 3 begins with 2 chains, and a half treble is worked into each of the half trebles in row 2. So let's look at that in practice. We'll begin with a slip knot and chains. I'm working with a foundation row of 15 chains. Row 1 begins with 2 chains. We need to identify the chain that we'll work the first half treble into. So we'll count 2 chains back from the working stitch and begin the first half treble in the 3rd chain from the hook. Before inserting the hook into this chain, wrap the yarn around the hook. This is called yarn over. Then insert the hook into the chain, push the hook all the way through, then yarn over again. Look carefully at the video. It should be a very simple action to just hook the thread and draw it through the chain. You now have 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over again and draw the thread through all 3 loops on the hook. It may take several attempts to get this right. You could begin by drawing the thread through 1 loop at a time rather than trying to go through all 3 in one action. It helps if you keep your tension loose and keep the loops on your hook nice and big. You'll be left with just 1 loop on your hook, and this completes the half treble stitch. Let's do that again. Yarn over, insert the hook into the next chain, yarn over and draw the thread through. You have 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over and draw this through all 3 loops on your hook. Now continue to work a half treble stitch into every chain. That's 15 half trebles in total. And pause at the end of the row and we'll count our stitches. Now turn your work around and work 2 chains to begin row 2. Yarn over, locate the stitch where you'll work your first half treble. This will be the very last half treble you worked on row 1. Be sure to work into the whole stitch. This means that you'll go through the top 2 threads of the stitch. Yarn over and draw it through the stitch. You have 3 loops on your hook. Yarn over again and draw this thread through all 3 loops on your hook. Locate the next stitch and continue to work a half treble into every stitch to the end of the row. I'm working 15 half trebles in total, and remember that in this tutorial the chains at the beginning of the row don't count as a stitch. Now turn your work around and work 2 chains. Yarn over, locate the first stitch, insert your hook into the stitch, yarn over, draw it through, you have 3 loops on your hook, yarn over again, draw this thread through all 3 loops on your hook, and continue to work a half treble into every stitch to the end of the row. Then repeat these rows to practice your half treble crochet stitch. Remember to keep your stitch count accurate to make your edges straight. And when you've worked your last half treble, cut the thread and pull the end through the last working stitch to fasten off.